So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to all of you that are joining us today on Zoom. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here and join us. So we are the Partners Resource Network. My name is Stephanie McLaughlin. I am the Training and Evaluation Specialist. And Partners Resource Network is the nonprofit agency that operates the Texas statewide network of parent training and information centers. We are funded through the U.S. Department of Education Office of Special Education. So our Parent Training and Information Center projects here in Texas are PATH, PIN, and TEAM. We strive to empower and support our Texas families and individuals impacted by disabilities or special healthcare needs. So again, welcome. We have joining us today our Director of Statewide Services, Christina Henning, and our support specialist, Chelsea Rivas, joining us if we have any other technical issues. They're helping out with that. So before I introduce our guest speaker today, I want to say if you have a question, you can put that in the Q&A box. And at the end of our time together, we're going to have some time for question and answers. So as we're going through, if you have questions, go ahead and put that in the Q&A box for us to go over at the end of our time. And so let's get started and let's introduce our guest speaker today. So Pam Sepulvado is a speech language pathology consultant for Region 10 Education Service Center and the statewide coordinator for the Region 10 TWU TEA Distance SLP Master's Degree Program. She has a master's degree in communication disorders and has worked over 20 years with children of all ages in the area of speech-language pathology. Pam has experience as a school-based speech-language pathologist, as well as private practice and home health. Her areas of expertise include evaluation, autism spectrum disorder, and collaborating with families to facilitate communication development. So welcome, Pam. We're so happy to have you here today, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Again, put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll answer those at the end. So, Pam, I'm going to let you take over.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, Chelsea, Christina, and Partners Resource Network for partnering with Region 10 and myself. Region 10, we love to connect with families and talk about what we do at Region 10. So we are glad to be here. I'm glad to be here to talk with you guys. So many of you guys, families, are finding yourself working at home and trying to facilitate communication. So, or you're working extra shifts, you're working late, you're one of the essential workers, and you're coming home tired and you need to facilitate communication. So we're here to just chat a little bit today about ways that you can incorporate choice making and communication throughout the day. The first thing we're going to talk about is providing choices through the day. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to incorporate communication throughout your day, just with structured tasks that you can develop, and then also just everyday tasks that you have going on through your day, like mealtime and bedtime and things like that. So the first thing we'll talk about is providing choices through the day. And why do you want to provide choices? Right here on this, the first PowerPoint slide, we've got some of the reasons why you'd want to provide choices. The first thing that we can talk about is increasing a child's receptive and expressive language. The next slide, what we're going to talk about is all the different ways that we can do that with providing choices. Another way is that we can offer children a sense of control over their environment and develop a sense of control. Because we all want a sense of control, and we all want to know that we have choices in the things that we have. We want to know that we have choices in what we eat and what we wear and those kinds of things. And we want to honor children's individual differences. We want, children want to know that they can choose the clothes that they wear and the food that they eat and the games that they play. Also, choices help children complete non-preferred activities. So your child doesn't want to clean up their toys right now. Well, you ask them, do you want to clean up your toys? Do you want to put it in the red box or the blue box? They're still going to have to complete that non-preferred activity, but they get a choice of where they put their toys. Also, increasing understanding of cause and effect and problem solving. So we complete you give them a choice, they see if I complete this task, then I get to move on to something else. And also it invites cooperation and respect. Instead of telling children what to do, then they understand that you have a sense of respect for them. You're giving them a choice. Granted, you are providing what choices. So you're still in control of the situation. All right. So how can we incorporate choices through the day? Typically, you're going to want to really stick with 2 choices. If you have older children, you can provide choices of 3, but really it's easier if you stick to 2 choices. So here's some examples. Start with breakfast. Child doesn't want to eat breakfast. Well, do you want pancakes or cereal? So the child's still going to eat breakfast, but you've provided those choices. You've got cereal or pancakes. What do you want? So the child can choose. So here we go. The child doesn't want to get dressed. Well, do you want to get dressed now or in 10 minutes? So they're still going to accomplish the task that you want them to, but they can choose when they're going to accomplish that task. Then we have older child who maybe doesn't want to accomplish their math activity. So they can choose when they want to do it. So we've got a choice of accomplishing an activity or access to an activity. Again, like I said before, putting your toys away. Do you want to put it in a red box or a blue box? How about setting the table? Do you want to put out the plates or do you want to put out the cups? Your child doesn't want to eat the apple. Do you want to eat the apple whole or you want to cut up in pieces? And maybe when it comes to reading time, your child doesn't want to read. Maybe this time you can offer the choice, would you like me to read to you or do you want to read alone? And you have a child who needs help brushing their teeth. Do you want me to help you brush your teeth now, at the beginning, or at the end? So those are some examples of choices for children of all ages. All right. So another reason we want to provide choices is to increase language. So when we're providing choices, if we're looking at objects, we're linking an object or activity with a spoken word. And expressively, you can model what you want your child's response to be. So say you're having a snack and you have an apple and you have a banana. And so you ask the question, do you want an apple or a banana? And so the child chooses the apple. And these are all the different ways that you can expand the language for the child. Now, what you want to do is you want to model what you want the child to say. And you don't have to say this, say that. You can just model it. I want an apple. I want an apple, please. So you throw in some social communication. I want to eat the apple. You've added an extra verb. I want the big apple, please. You've added descriptor. I want the big apple cut in small pieces. So you've added a couple more adjectives. I do not want the banana. I want the apple. So you've added in a negative word. Please give me 2 apple slices, and you 4 slices on the blue plate. So you've added in some pronouns and some extra adjectives. give brother 3 apple slices and give her 2 apple slices. So some more pronouns. And then after we read the bear book, we'll eat apple slices. And so we've added in some directions, some directive words. So those are some different ways that you can increase language by providing choices. All right, so another way, another reason you'd want to provide choices is increasing independence and communication. And so when we provide choices of what to wear, what to eat, toys, or what to play, they feel more in control of their environment. And then when we provide choices, they're learning more ways to make decisions and develop their inner narrative. So their self-talk. And that's how we learn to make decisions. We use that self-talk to decide, well, if I do this, this will happen. And so we're learning about consequences. You can also narrate out loud how you're making your decisions. And that will also help children learn about how to narrate and learn that self-talk and those problem-solving skills. And lastly, when providing choices, children are learning about cause and effect. So if I choose carrots now, maybe I'll have a choice of cookies later. Or when I make my choice, I'll get to move on to the next fun activity. These are all precursors to understanding narratives and reading and those kinds of things. So we're going to move on to another great reason to provide choices. So behavior is communication. Whenever we see a challenging behavior, it can be the result of some kind of breakdown in communication. Either a child's not understanding the situation or direction, or they're not able to relay a message. And so providing a choice in the midst of a difficult or challenging behavior can help you diffuse the situation until you can assess what that breakdown in communication. So you have a child who is not wanting to clean up and is on the verge of throwing a tantrum. So then you can say, do you want to put away your blocks with mommy or with daddy? Not wanting to eat their food at the table, do you want to eat green beans or potatoes? Or do you want to get your green beans before your potatoes or after, assuming that potatoes are a preferred food? And then maybe your child doesn't want to complete classwork. Do you want to take a break after? You want to complete your classwork after you take a 5 or 10 minute break? So if you want to diffuse a situation, then that's another great way. Providing a choice is another great way to do that. All right, so let's move on to different ways that you can facilitate communication throughout the day. So on the left, there's we can use books and toys and games and mealtime and different apps, really for children of all different ages, from birth to 18 plus. And then on the right are all these different skills. And if you have children who have worked, have had goals and objectives, say, on an IEP, you've seen these terms: joint attention, taking turns, labeling, asking and answering questions, sequencing, following directions, predicting, all these different things you can work on. So say you have, for example, you're reading some books. Joint attention is a really important skill, and it's the precursor to all of our other skills. And really, that is when you and your child are both looking at whatever you're doing. If you're looking at a book or you're looking at a toy, and you're both engaged in that, and then you turn and you look to each other, and you both are interested in the same object or activity. And you can do that with any of these, the books, the toys, the games, and at mealtime, and even with apps. Some families do not have access to these other things, don't have books, don't have toys, but you might have a phone with, and you can access YouTube video. So you can work on joint attention, taking turns, labeling, asking and answering questions. At the end of the PowerPoint, there are a couple of free apps that you can access. Khan Academy Kids is a great one that has tons of free activities in it with books and videos and ABCs and numbers and things like that that you can enjoy with your children. At mealtime, you can do lots of different activities like following directions, giving and following directions. You can give directions, multi-step directions, and then you can also have your children give directions. Preparing meals, setting the table, cleaning up, doing sequencing. Also with toys, we'll look at the next slide, and we've got some pictures of some different toys. So Play-Doh, love to work with Play-Doh with my students. We can roll it. We can roll it in a ball. We can roll it long like a snake. We can use cookie cutters and make different shapes, letters, objects, and we can put things in and out of containers. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with Play-Doh, and you can look up recipes at home and make your own Play-Doh if you don't have Play-Doh right now, and it's hard to get at a store. Balls, everybody has balls. You can roll them. These are great. Turn-taking, joint attention, following directions, different colors, prepositions, plurals, all kinds of activities that you can do. If you have siblings at home, social communication is great with these blocks. So many activities with blocks. Again, stacking on top, you can use animals with your blocks and do all kinds of pretend play. Pretend play is super important to conversation, to language. You can take your farm animals and your blocks and your Play-Doh and put it all together, and your cars, and make sure to not only use nouns, but also to use verbs, stop, jump, and use all the prepositions like over, on top, and under. And then we have our little people over here, whatever kinds of dolls you have, and they can have narratives. They can get in the car and go zoom and go to the store. Your blocks can be stores or hospitals and schools. So all kinds of things. The more pretending, the more you can use different objects as different things and help your children be more creative, the better. And here for some older children, here are some great games. If you have them at home, that's great. If you can order them from Amazon, if they're delivering, that's great. Headbands is a great one for asking and answering questions, vocabulary. You can read all that. All those, Guess Who, Cranium, those are all just suggestions. Sorry and Candyland and Chutes and Ladders, all again, turn taking, working in a group if you have siblings or other family members. A lot of them you can work on counting, one-to-one correspondence, and adding vocabulary. And even a good old game of charades is really great use of gesturing and nonverbal communication, which some of our students can work on, eye contact and those kinds of things. And we'll move on. So here is a great quote from Mr. Rogers. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning. But for a children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. So children should play, and that is how they learn language. And really, parents are the primary teachers of language. And I think that parents, we don't give ourselves enough credit. And so just remember, you guys are the teachers, and keep teaching at home all these great language. Sometimes you just need a few reminders that if you add a few little extra steps in your play, then you can increase that language throughout the day. Here are a couple of sites under the Making Choices. Those are some of great information on why and how to make choices during the day, the reasons why. Under the speech and language, those are some developmental charts about what children should be doing at different ages, speech and language wise. Then there's one on modeling AAC at home. If your child has augmentative device at home, it's a great short YouTube video. And then here's some learning websites and apps. So Khan Academy Kids, I mentioned earlier, has some great books, all different kinds of great books in that app. And National Geographic has some short videos that are excellent, can facilitate language. PBS Kids, again, a great a site. Also, my Playhome Lite app. There's one that you can pay, they pay that I think is 99 cents or $3.99. And it's a great, fun little app, but this one's free, that you can move the kids in and out of the home. You can take a shower. You can do all kinds of things in the bathroom and in the kitchen. You can feed. You can put things on the table, off the table. The kids can go outside and bounce on the trampoline. And it is really a fun little interactive app. If you sit with the child and you help them and facilitate them with their language. And then here under toys and games, there's a couple of websites by speech language pathologists that help you understand some of the things that you can target, some of the language concepts that you can target with toys and games. And then lastly, here is the sped text slide and all the information. If you have questions about special education in Texas, this is our sped text information. All right. And I think that is about it for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Pam. Some great information on communication. So if you have a question, please put that in the Q&A box. We're going to answer those questions now. So go ahead and put those in. If you missed it, Christina shared a link to the PowerPoint that's available online in the chat box. So you can go and get that there. I'm looking in the chat box. It looks like we have one question in the chat box that we'll go ahead and ask. So, are there any life skills sites or apps for grocery shopping?
Apps for grocery shopping. I do not know any that are particular for grocery shopping. But that would be great. That would be a great resource to work on, because that is a very important life skill that is lifelong, that you need to have. The ability to choose or make a list, choose what you need, the ability to check out and communicate while you're at the grocery store, and pay, all those kinds of things. So someone needs to get that done if it's not out there. But I can research that. That is a super important life skill.
Absolutely. All right. We do have another question. Do you have any suggestions to continue working on pragmatic language, your social skills, for middle school and high school age while still at home?
Oh, yes. Well, if the students have whatever their friends, I think connecting with their friends, Zoom and FaceTime, I think that would be a great way to continue with that connection, for any students, but for those students, keep those connections up, even probably if they don't want to. And they may feel it may be easier through those mediums. I worked with a student who we did Google Hangout. And that was, he looked forward to that. He actually did Google Hangout with my boys. And that was his highlight of our session, is that he did Google Hangout with my boys. And we prepped beforehand some questions he was going to ask. He was going to work on his rate of speech, his tone. He kind of, thought out some of the things that he wanted to work on ahead of time. If you're not familiar with the Social Thinking site by Michelle Garcia Winter, that is a lot of wonderful resources, especially for that age group. There's lots of really great resources in that website. But working from home would be keep up any connections, try to keep it face to face. So you're continuing to work on the reading of the facial cues, work on at mealtime, keeping up those conversations. So those kinds of things I think would be really great to work on.
Excellent. Okay, a follow-up question. Do you have any suggestions for working on volume control for the same age kids?
Yes. Visuals. Visuals. If you can do, and probably if you go on Pinterest and look that up, there's going to be a visual about volume control. And if you could get some kind of visual, I think there's some out there with like a little radio or something like that. Any kind of visual for students, for any student really, but students on the autism spectrum is going to be key, so that they understand what you are communicating, because verbal might not connect, but the visual will connect. So I think if you can get some kind of visual and have that in front of you when you're talking about volume.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions? If you've got your question, go ahead and get that in the Q&A box now. Doesn't look like we have any more in the chat box. Looks like we're good in the Q&A box. Pam, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us for the series of Facebook Lives.
Yes, thank you. And for all of those that joined us today, we do have our statewide webinar today. Tomorrow. Not today. I'm going to post the link to register for that. Sorry about the background noise. My cat is wanting out. Let's see. I will put that in the chat box now. You register. We're going to have Stephen Alamon from Disability Rights Texas talking about student rights during the COVID outbreak. So thank you so much, Pam. Really, really appreciate you being here today and sharing these great tips. And we'll see you guys later. Thank you, Stephanie.